It's time to take a dip in the Antarctic Ocean. Why the heck not, right? There are seals swimming around here. They'll probably take me for an elephant seal, I figure. Elephant seals weigh 4 tons or more each. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm making good progress, I'd say. But enough talking. People, I've never been this far before. What a handsome, chubby guy. Oh, come on, please, don't attack me. No, that's okay. Oh, look at you, wow. We're in Antarctica, which is technically the bottom of the world, so we're walking upside down. I've started tying my hats on, because I've already lost 2. This is Lyadov, and today we set sail for Antarctica. Our mission is to sail from a small town at the southern tip of Argentina in South America to the coldest continent in the world. We're going there on a small yacht that can take up to 13 people, and we'll have to cross the Drake Passage on it. Just so you know, the Drake Passage is considered one of the most treacherous voyages for ships to make, because this fairly narrow and deep passage is the place of the most powerful convergence of seas due to the Antarctic Circumpolar Current. It will take us 5 days to reach Antarctica on this ship, and there we'll see how people live at the Antarctic stations. This is Lyadov, and this is how people live in Antarctica.
Is Antarctica.
'Are you subscribed to our channel? Not yet? The sad thing is that Anton can't go on his next adventure until you do. So pretty please, subscribe now. That's right. Go ahead, click subscribe. Well done and thank you. We can continue now.
Oh my god. Oh, whoa.
Right, it's starting to rain, and honestly, the waves are getting stronger, and more water is coming in. You know, I think we need to go inside. The waves are huge, at least 16 feet tall. It takes minutes for the weather to change. The wind hits the sails and the boat starts rolling. A wave comes in from the left, and the rolling boat goes even lower, and seawater starts pouring onto the deck. Ten minutes later, everyone on the boat feels like inside a working washing machine. Of course, going on an adventure like this is incredibly exciting, but we also must keep our minds cool and remember how dangerous it really is. This year alone, some people died trying to reach Antarctica. Being on the deck at times like this is literally life-threatening. Our cameraman Stan just went to retrieve the GoPro camera and got almost washed off the deck. He came back completely soaked, and the water here is freezing cold. There are no words to describe it. No video can give you an idea of how it felt. At times, it gets really scary. What relaxes me a tiny bit is the fact that I'm filming all this. When you're filming, it feels like you're on a movie set and you don't take it as seriously. I got inside, but it only gets worse here. It feels now like the washing machine has moved onto the spin dryer cycle, and a very powerful one. You can get the idea of the roll just by looking at these jackets. They're off by exactly 30 degrees, and naturally, so is the boat. It's far from being upright. In fact, it feels like it could capsize at any second. But sailboats have the capacity to go as far as 60 degrees. Look at these sun rays, how they're swaying back and forth. You surely realize that it's not the sun moving around. Things seem to be on the verge of taking off into the air. There's even no need to stir the soup in the pot, it stirs itself. Gradually, it gets dark outside, and inside, it's no longer clear whether we're still on the surface or already sinking. Honestly, it feels like some royal clusterfuck. The boat is simply being tossed around like a twig on these huge waves. Sleeping in a situation like this is an extreme challenge, but you have to try because being sleep deprived on top of having jitters is a recipe for disaster. I fell asleep and dreamt the boat capsized. I heard people screaming overboard and woke up shouting that we needed to save everyone. And right at that moment, I felt god-awful pain in my arm. There was a sharp flash in my eyes and I practically blacked out. I had dislocated my shoulder. If anyone has ever experienced this, they know it's extremely painful. The pain kept pulsing in my shoulder and radiating down my arm and further down the right side of my body, but it got even worse when the doctor tried to do something about it. It became simply unbearable. People, before I return to my tale of that storm on our way to Antarctica when I got my arm dislocated, let me tell you first how people get to this neck of the wood these days. Honestly, it's faster to try and get to the moon. I'm not kidding you. It took NASA astronauts in the Apollo program 3 days to reach the moon in 1969. It took my team twice as long to get to Antarctica. First from Moscow to Dubai, from Dubai to Paris, from Paris to Buenos Aires, and then 4 more hours to go from the capital of Argentina to the most southernmost city in the world, the capital of Tierra del Fuego with the unpronounceable name Ushuaia, and that's only half the trip. Well, my friends, here it is, Argentina, the southernmost part of Argentina. I've never been this far before, never been this close to any of the 2 poles in my life. Right now, I want to step out there. I want to step out there with you right now, and I want to feel this air, to feel how it smells. Oh my God, what insane beauty. Oh, what a smell! The wind is so strong, the birds have trouble staying up in the sky. Just look at the horizon, all these majestic mountains around. Even the airport here has been built in the shape of a mountain, or a tent the tourists set up in these mountains. It's cold, and damn how I love this cold smell. It reminds me of how the air smells in Iceland and on the Russian Kuril Islands. Ah, damn this wind! You know, it's so strong, it makes one think of things like a tornado in The Wizard of Oz or something. This insane strong wind and all this insane beauty. The landscape is stunning. You can really feel that the wind here is not like any other. It's special, it's strong, and super powerful. You can feel that somewhere close there's something very, very cold, eternally cold, and it's been like that for millennia. And it literally smells here of the Discovery Age. Wow. Oh my god, the thing that I love the most is, you know what? It's that finally, here, I no longer look like a town fool in my puffer jacket. You see, I had to go through Dubai and then through Buenos Aires in it, and it was just scorching hot in both places. Like a complete idiot. I had to wear my puffer jacket and my big sturdy insulated boots. And here, finally, it's all paying off. And I'm really happy to have this puffer jacket on because it's really cold out here. But all in all, it took me over 40 hours to get here. The beach, where you can find some of the amazing local wildlife, runs along the entire town of Ushuaia, so animals and people have long since grown accustomed to each other. After all, Ushuaia is pretty densely populated. In addition to the local population of 80,000, there are always lots of tourists here. It's the sweetest little town in the world. There are no tall buildings and everything is very calm and cozy. Look at this girl. She has a stand by the bus stop and she's knitting her hats here on the street right where she's selling them. Houses are painted bright, different colors, yellow, pink, green, and here are some orange-colored houses. There's an incredible amount of colorful graffiti on almost every other building. Here is what seems to have been an ordinary grey parking lot, but artists have turned it into a spot with a cool vibe. Do you know how people order a taxi in Ushuaia? Any guesses? You walk to this spot downtown where the taxi drivers pull up. They all come here, and people line up just like this and wait for their turn. That's how. You queue and wait. There is no number to call. Well, even if you call, but they'll just say come to this spot. When I take a closer look at the graffiti, I see some familiar things. Look, here's one dedicated to May the 1st. Just like at home, it's Labor Day. Against a backdrop of all this gingerbread house lane cuteness, the cruise ships at the pier look like spaceships arriving from another universe. This is the starting point of my journey, Ushuaia. Okay, people, I think it's time for us to go and check out the boat that will be taking my glorious team to Antarctica. Right. You know, truth be told, I've never really traveled anywhere by boat before. When it comes to sea voyages, you know, my experience is limited to leisure boat rides on the Volga River back home. I've sailed a handful of miles from one town to another, so that's the extent of my sailing experience, you understand. People, to get to Antarctica, we'll have to take up one of the most dangerous routes in the world. First, we'll sail down the Beagle Channel. Then we'll have to cross the Drake Passage, which is the stormiest place in the world. Here it is, on a map. Yes, all this water, 500 miles wide, is one strait, which is the widest strait in the world. The thing is, this is where very strong winds are constantly blowing from west to east, while the current moves in the opposite direction from east to west. The Drake Passage is also very, very deep, up to 15,600 feet at its deepest point. These factors explain, in short, why this place is known as the graveyard of ships. The enormous waves here can toss around even large military ship and cargo vessels like matchboxes. Back in the day, sailors who made it through the Drake Passage alive earned the privilege of wearing an earring to signify that. That's, in fact, the reason why we all now think of pirates as dudes with earrings. It was a sign of distinction, telling everyone about your achievement. Sort of like the privilege to sit in a bar with your feet up. Well, I'm going to sail the Drake Passage too. Right, the funny thing is that I don't see any particularly large boats here. It's all just little boats, you know? It turns out we're going on one of these. Holy crap, guys. Holy crap. Unbelievable. Can we even make it on this? We're going to be at sea for 4 days, 6 actually, out in an open sea on a boat like this? Seriously? Honestly, I thought it'd be some kind of a ship, like a ferry, a huge ferry. You walk in and there are 5 or 6 floors and they tell you to relax and that nothing will happen to you. And when you walk around, you don't even feel like you're on a boat. Holy crap, are you kidding me? How do you even get anywhere on something like this? Oh my. Oh, holy crap. Fuck me. Of course, it's definitely bigger than kayaks on the Volga River. On a sailboat, to Antarctica, across the Drake Passage, across the wildest seas. Yes, this is what I've been preparing for all these years, kayaking down the Volga. Well, here she is, our beauty. Here it is, our sailboat. At least it has the tallest mast of all in this marina. Inside, everyone is so relaxed. Like all we're gonna do is indeed take a leisure ride down the Volga.
Hello.
Hello. Greetings, everyone. Hello. Hi. Hello, I'm Anton. It's time to introduce myself to the crew. First, the captain. I thought that the captain would be like the guy in SpongeBob SquarePants show, you know, with a beard and a pipe. Are you ready, kids? Aye, Captain! But our captain is Pavel, an intellectual and very cool dude. He looks rather like an IT guy or a graphic designer. His crew includes Alex, the first mate, Mikhail, the sailor, looks like a Jason Statham doppelganger. He is definitely the main sex symbol on the boat. And then there's Kita, a master from Uruguay. She runs her own sailing school there. These wonderful people will not only have to take care of a million processes on the boat, but also deal with the crazy dudes with jitters, like me. The boat is perfectly stable and won't capsize, I guess. I don't know. I think of a roly-poly toy, a weeble wobble. No matter how much you push it, it always goes right back up. So, all in all, when crossing the Drake Passage, it's enough to keep a close eye on the weather and try to avoid getting into severe storms. Pavel is giving me a boat tour. The first piece of good news is that beside the sails, there's an engine, although not much more powerful than in a regular car. 170 horsepower? 170 horsepower. Yes. Not exactly a lot, huh? Now let's see how much stuff these 170 horses will be carrying. First, 13 people. Then, 4 metric tons of drinking water in a tank. And then 1 more ton in bottles. Then, the most important thing for me, the food, guys. The noms. We've actually loaded enough food for about 25 to 30 days. I always order extra food, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic, because there have been situations when we would arrive at a port and they wouldn't let us dock for another week or two. I also keep an emergency supply of canned food. Alex is only stocking the boat. Another cook will be joining us for the ride. Another boat is supposed to return from the Antarctic voyage today, and when they arrive, it'll be our turn to depart. Four hours later, the boat we've been waiting for finally arrived. The people on it were very happy, I must say. Now, it's our turn to move our stuff in. The suitcases are too big and don't fit in the cabin, so we have to put everything into boxes. Being busy with something actually has a calming effect, especially when you see everyone around you also being busy. Our designated cook, Sergey, has finally arrived, and Alex is now handing over all the kitchen supplies to him. There's not a single loaf of bread. You'll have to bake all the bread yourself. It's okay, I'll figure out something. Just a few minutes left, it's already past midnight, and finally, we're about to set sail.
Okay, thank you. Have a good voyage. Bye. Все, Карман, давай.
Aye, aye. Nights on a sailboat are a special time. On our first night, we sailed down the Beagle Channel very smoothly. It was fast and easy, like driving on a good road. But after that, the real adventure began. And while we had the luxury of sleeping, the boat crew, Pavel, Alex, Mikhail, and Kita, had to keep working. They took turns every 4 hours, taking up the captain's place at the helm and making all the vital decisions, like what to do if the wind picks up or the waves rise. For example, tailwind means they need to hoist the sail. It's an incredible experience because sleeping here is virtually impossible. You're not lying in a bed, you're constantly being tossed around in it. Things keep falling down here and there, moving back and forth, and it's really scary. Plus, you feel nauseous every now and then. And it gets even more scary when all the tossing becomes really strong and the boat rolls heavily on the rough sea. I'll record some of the sounds for you now so you can hear what it sounds like.
Я сейчас запишу несколько звуков, чтобы вы послушали просто, как это звучит.
This contraption here, which might seem purely decorative, is in fact incredibly helpful. Without it, sleeping would be completely impossible. Seriously, we'd all be completely wrecked here, covered in blood and bruises. You hook it up like this, tighten it, and then I scooch right into it like this. This way I can be sure it won't let me down. Also, sleeping on a boat in this beautiful cradle makes you an expert in holding it. You see, going to the bathroom is such a quest, it's a whole procedure, a full-scale event. You know, it's like going to a theatre in normal life. You have to unhook this thing, climb down, try to avoid banging all your body parts into anything, then walk to the bathroom grabbing onto endless walls. So, you know, I usually just lie here and hold it. The feeling of needing to pee is taken to a whole new level here. By the way, here's one more important thing you can't sleep without on a boat. Next to you, there are these things, the bath bags. You puke into them. Knock on wood, I haven't had the need yet. You haven't yet? I have not. I think you're the last one on the boat who hasn't. I'm holding it too. To use the toilet, you have to first press the Before Plus button. It fills with some water and then you're okay to use it. Did you just see that? The water is almost coming in, it looks like. I'm here to brush my teeth, and this is the most unusual morning routine I've ever had. I've never brushed my teeth this close to the sea. You always have to hold on to something. I'm holding on to the faucet, although I probably shouldn't because I might yank it out, all things considered. While I'm rubbing my eyes on the deck, one of the guys from my team is already doing his morning exercises. That's Stan, and Oleg is doing push-ups further away. It's so weird, right? Totally. I never go down at the exact same spot I started. Cape Horn, the last visible bit of South America, looms on the horizon. Take a closer look over there, in the distance. You can see a tiny speck of land. That's Cape Horn. For centuries, Cape Horn has been the source of many myths and legends, because many tried to reach it but couldn't, as it was, and still is, among the most challenging places in the world for sailboats to reach. That's because in order to approach this cape, you need to go westward while the winds almost always blow eastward. So you get a headwind. On top of that, the current here is also eastward. Of course, for centuries, there was no such thing as a weather forecast, so you can imagine it. As a result, over 200 ships are buried on the ocean floor near Cape Horn. It might seem like sailing around here is generally a terrible idea, akin to a feat of courage and stupidity. But that's not the case at all. When the big waves start tossing you around, the sailboat stands, in fact, a better chance because it has the capacity to self-right. When building a yacht, they use, in essence, the same idea that makes fishing floats or roly-poly toys what they are. You can't knock over a roly-poly toy because it's got a low center of mass with weight at the bottom. And the lower the toy or the fishing float or the yacht is pushed, the higher the center of mass ends up pulling it right back.
So how long do we have until trade? we are already officially in Drake Channel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because we passed the two lighthouses, this cape and this one, that gives the entrance of the Beagle Channel. So we are out of the Beagle Channel now and already Drake Passage.
But it doesn't feel like...
Not yet.
I'm catching the smell of fresh pancakes from the kitchen. That's our cook Sergey at work. He's the first one to get up in the morning at 6 a.m. That's because breakfast is at 9. I just found out that he's been at sea for over 2 months now. This is his 3rd voyage, and he's been moving from one boat to another. How long has it been since you watched or read any news? Since December 22nd, for 2.5 months. Right, I see. Does it feel different when you stop following the news altogether? Well, I think the stress levels go down, at least from all that information, because there's a lot of stress-inducing stuff in the news. Without it, you just live a normal life, where the worst that can happen is something like, oh shit, I spilt the milk. That's normal. Sergey is an absolutely incredible dude. He's been traveling around Russia and the world for 6 years now, and he gets paid for it because people need cooks everywhere. He's lived on Mount Elbrus, and then on the Kuril Islands, and then in Murmansk, and now he's headed to Antarctica. Well, the roll is the major challenge here. Everything falls and moves. You can't do any two things at the same time. You just can't put something down and go do something else. You have to secure everything first. You have to make sure nothing falls off or breaks. What was the most frustrating loss you remember? When a fridge fell down, full of fresh food? Ah, there were all those yummy yogurts in it. Well, my friends, let me show you what it's like to cook on a sailboat. First, note the overall setup in a galley. Everything here is designed to make sure nothing falls or moves. As the boat rolls, look, here it moves too. See? It moves back. But it didn't fall or break. So everything in the galley is made to keep things in place, like these mugs. Then let's take a look here. All the spice jars and bottles are secured by these rails. In addition to this, they have a worktop with a raised edge. So for example, if you put a spoon down, it might slide until it hits the edge and stops. So it's a smart design, really. Now, we're going to cook some scrambled eggs. For starters, you can't just grab something and start chopping. Why? Because everything's moving. First, you need to put down this little towel, and then put the cutting board on top of it. There. This way, it doesn't move around as much. Oops, wow, yeah, here we are, I caught the onion. That's one of a cook's top skills, catching things you're working with. Okay, here's the knife I'm gonna use. Check out the water moving too when it's running. To wash something, you have to keep up. Alright, let's start. I'll be making scrambled eggs with some tomatoes, onion, and bacon. Let's see how much of this I managed to chop. You think you're just chopping, but in reality, I'm using the body parts you wouldn't even suspect of being involved, like my right leg, left thigh, even my pelvis. I'm leaning on them just to keep standing. Cooking on a sailboat, feels a lot like cooking while riding a unicycle. Something like that. Anyway, it's not like you wake up in the morning and just whip up some eggs. You've got to be totally focused here. You can't even think about anything else. Right, and the sausage. Let's start with the sausage. Check out the stove, please. There are different designs for stoves for yachts that go on trips like this. I've seen, for example, a stove that tilts back and forth to sync with the roll. But this one doesn't tilt. And I've realized now that it's a pretty useless feature, because the boat can roll back and forth, but it can also roll to the left and right.
Штука, потому что помимо того, что тебя качает вперед-назад, тебя еще качает влево-вправо. И поэтому, если она у тебя будет качаться вперед, она будет уезжать влево. Здесь гораздо более умная система.
And in this case, this design is not gonna help. Here, they've got a much smarter system. Look, they've added the rails that secure every pot. I'm gonna move it now so that I can make room for the frying pan, like this. And now I'm going to, whoa, whoa! That's boiling water! What do we do? All right, yeah, I've secured it. I've got it done. Okay, we got it. It's okay. Wow.
Нормально. Все, держим. О, да.
Скажу вам так.
Let me tell you, this is just as stressful a job as being a captain. So, we've got everything secured now, right? Yeah, it's fine. The soup's okay. Nothing's moving, right? Business as usual. Business as usual, no shit. Well, yeah. Yeah.
Да. Нет, честно говоря.
No, honestly, it was scary. I got pretty scared that boiling water might go all over us, and that's not unheard of either as it happens. Alright, everyone, let's pull ourselves together. Oil, right? Where's the oil? There's olive oil and sunflower seed oil.
Так. Так. Ага, все, так.
Here it is. Okay. Okay, yeah, all good. So, pan's heating up. Alright, let's go. I'm adding the oil. The oil spreads around all by itself, as if by magic. Yeah, well, in short, I think you get why the rails are necessary on the stove, right? To make sure that, for example, the pan with the soup doesn't slide off and kill you.
Только не улетел и не убил вас. Короче.
Guys, I'm not cooking scrambled eggs just for show. In fact, I'm cooking for the crew. And I'm not entirely sure it's gonna be any good, you see?
Запах кайфовый.
Well, at least the smell is amazing. But you know the smell of food? Not the smell of food you just picked up and ate, but the smell of food you've earned. You've worked for it, you've caught it, you've chopped it, and you didn't let it escape.
Ты ее нарезал, ты не дал ей убежать.
Wow, can you see the eggs traveling in the pan? Look at this! Have you ever seen scrambled eggs with eggs that are moving? See how they slide left, right, fuck!
Вправо, влево, вправо.
Alright, it's done.
Зацените, пожалуйста.
Check out how it looks. As good as in any restaurant. Everything's laid out perfectly for a photo shoot. Instagram food porn material, I say.
Специально для Инстаграма прям.
Well, what can I say? It's well done. We're approaching the South Shetland Islands. This is not the mainland Antarctica yet, but they are part of the Antarctic territory, so to speak. They're a home to a number of research stations. We'll see a handful of them close together. They also have an airport here where most tourists arrive for transfer to cruise ships. And there are penguins greeting us, jumping out of the water. And it's a good thing there's no ice today.
The
The land we'll finally be landing on is just an island, not the continent. But it sure feels like we've landed on another planet, because look, the local landscape is all volcanic black rock with white spots of snow. You don't see landscapes like this in places where we live. I heard that the Antarctic scenery is as close to what other planets might look like as we can get here. And it's truly impressive.
Это, конечно, впечатляет.
It's exciting that we're now docking in a bay that's home to several research stations. For example, there's a Chilean station, then a Russian one, over there is a Chinese station, and further on is a Korean one. We're guests here, and there are certain rules to observe. For example, you must clean your feet before entering. The mandatory procedure before setting foot on Antarctic soil is to soak your shoes in a disinfectant solution to prevent any unwanted viruses from getting here. Safety first for everyone.
Для всех.
Somehow I got my feet wet. Ugh, dry land. Finally. While we're on our way to the shore, the penguins were sunbathing and chilling. But as soon as we landed, they were like, oh, okay, the humans arrived. Time to get up and show off how smart we are. But this little dude seems too lazy to bother. Look at him, stretching out just like a little human. But in the end, he decided it's time to put his best show on for us too, and began his tidying up procedure. Look at him, cleaning his coat feather after feather to dazzle us with his unbearable cuteness and smart looks. In reality, as clumsy as these guys might seem on land, they can develop a speed of up to 25 miles per hour in the water, dive over 1,000 feet deep, and do flip jumps. And then they leap out of the water in pairs or in groups, like Antarctica's own synchronized swimming team. And when they climb out of the water, it becomes clear there was a whole gang of them down there. Each one shakes itself dry and then triumphantly announces, I'm here! Hello, everyone! Look at this guy. He's huffing and puffing and gathering his strength, and then finally gives a cry. Meanwhile, their buddies on shore are up to something. Pay attention to how they walk. Penguins always travel in little groups, and there's always someone on guard. They form these little groups with lookouts on each side, keeping an eye on everything. Take a closer look at this one with ruffled feathers. He's got a pebble in his beak. He picked it up in one place and is carrying it to another. This is penguins' main occupation. They collect pebbles to build nests. There are some lazy guys too. For example, the chubby one on the left noticed that our penguin had a pebble and tried to steal it, but the hardworking penguin didn't let him. It's important for penguins to have stone nests built in time for the mating season, so stealing pebbles from each other is a very common occupation. And look how they're all dressed up. Like always dressed for black tie. What a smart looking penguin. So cute, so chubby. I think they're really soft to touch. This penguin also has perfect manners. He politely made it clear that he had to go on his way. So let's not stop him. Penguins seem like the cutest creatures on Earth, but boy, do they smell! And quite naturally, penguins are also very curious birds. I got distracted while I was filming with the drone, and this dude immediately came over like he needed to see what his home looks like from high above. In water, they're also monitoring the situation at all times. Look, they jump out after one another in turns, then they stick their heads out of the water and look around more closely. And if the coast is clear and potential threats are far enough, they come on shore. Hey, shoo! Man, he wants to bite me. If you think these dudes are too clumsy to protect themselves, let me tell you a real story. An elephant seal, the largest of seals, once felt threatened by a tourist who got too close and simply bit off half of his arse. I kid you not. And one more thing, there are also penguins in Cape Town at the Boulder Beaches, which is the southernmost point of Africa. So a tourist once got too close to the penguins there, and one of them bit the guy's leg. The man was taken to the hospital, and as they started treating him, they saw gangrene developing. They ended up amputating his leg, but imagine that. The infection still managed to spread beyond, and the man eventually died anyway. The moral of the story? Never mess with the penguins. This is the Russian Antarctic Station, named after Russian explorer Fabian von Bellenshausen, who in fact discovered Antarctica 200 years ago. The station is located at the very edge of Antarctica, and the residents jokingly call it a spa because the coldest it gets here is -7°C or 19 Fahrenheit, compared to inland temperatures, which drop to -50°C, that's -58°F, and even lower, like -70°C or -94°F. It's really kind of balmy weather. The Bellenshausen station isn't even big enough to qualify as a village. There are only 11 small buildings here. There's a canteen, a hospital, a library, a sauna, and even a church. You can see it up there on the hill. The entire station is manned by 17 people. People come here for 10 to 12 months, 18 at most. Really? There's a time limit? Well, there are exceptions as well. Some of the guys have been here for over 2 years. It depends. If you're ready for long-term isolation, why not? There's a small stream running through the station. It comes from a freshwater lake that collects water from the melting glaciers. The water here is very pure. It's practically distilled, so it doesn't contain all the necessary minerals the human system requires. And what's worse, it washes minerals out of the system. For example, I started having trouble with my teeth and bones. In about 12 months? No, much sooner. 3 to 4 months in. I had to increase my supplement intake. Notice how the houses are built on stilts here. That keeps the entrances always clear even in heavy snowfall. But more importantly, stilts prevent the permafrost from melting. In Russia's northern territories, houses are built the same way. All the piping is also laid above ground, which is the easiest solution in areas with permafrost. See those huge barrels? They're storing fuel, which is delivered once a year by sea, together with food and supplies. We get our food delivered once a year. What month? Let's see. We arrived last January. We had left St. Petersburg on December the 1st, so all our food supplies date back to around November 2021. That includes grains and cereals, pasta, frozen meat, canned stew, and other preserves. And that's where I started thinking that things don't seem to add up, because check this out. Here I'm visiting one of the station's residents. And he offered me a cake, some pastries, and even some fresh pears and apples. Obviously, none of that can be 1 year old, right? It turned out it was a treat from the station next door, from the Chileans. They have fresh produce delivered by air all the time. It's fascinating, like a whole different world, right? Each station is in fact a different nation state. But somehow you all keep in touch and mingle here easily, right? That's true. Also, during my first mission at the station, I learned some Spanish. You did? Yes, so I can talk with them. Wow, so you speak Spanish with them? I do. Okie dokie. In water this cold, a person in a regular dry suit can last from 5 to 7 minutes tops. If they stay longer, they're, well, they'll get severe hypothermia and freeze burns. The boat is moving at a decent speed, it's not stopping, and if it were to try and turn around, it would take somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes. And what happens to you in the meantime in this icy cold water is a big question. That's why everything on the boat is designed to keep you, one way or another, secured with a rope. I'm just gonna walk over there and retrieve the GoPro camera. This red thing I'm wearing is a life jacket. It inflates upon contact with water, but as I already said, it's unlikely to save me. That's why you've got to make sure you've got your safety lines fastened at all times on boats like this. The boat has these safety lines absolutely everywhere. And a second later, literally, I was nearly tossed overboard. Oh my god, oh my dear god, oh god, wowza. Oh, you can see how Stan is being tossed around. This camera shows you're being tossed around. I didn't even notice when it started raining. This is actually considered good weather in the Drake Passage. In terms of Drake Passage weather, this is a sunny day on a beach. Time to bask in sunshine. Remember my face at the beginning of the episode when I got into the water? That's exactly why I did it. To feel what it's like. Everything in your body goes numb the same instant. You start flailing your arms trying to get to the surface, but you can't really feel them anymore. They feel more like some elongated flippers. Your fingers go instantly numb. And then you stop feeling your arms too. Even if they pull you out within 15 or 20 minutes, it's possible your body won't be able to recover and you'll still die. This journey is not exactly risk-free. There have been cases where things ended badly. This season, several people have already died on cruise ships. In one case, a rogue wave smashed some windows and one of the people inside died as a result. In another incident, a Zodiac boat capsized on its way to Antarctica, resulting in deaths. Every ship has an inflatable Zodiac boat on board. It's indispensable because you can't dock in Antarctica. To get from your sailboat to the shore, you can take a ride on a Zodiac. But sometimes icebergs crack and break up, and large chunks of ice fall into the water, sending waves around. Sometimes they are very big waves. Here's an article from the Washington Post. 4 US citizens died and many more got injured on Antarctic cruises late last year. The deaths are believed to have been caused by large waves hitting the boats. When walking around the yacht in rough seas, you need at least 3 points of contact. Look at how our cook, Sergey, is standing. He's deliberately hunched over and leaning his back against the wall. Honestly, I even started wishing that I had a prehensile tail. I could have used it to grab onto things like handrails or lean on it. Seasickness hits everyone who dares to cross the Drake Passage. That's right, people, apologies if you're eating right now, but everyone on the boat gets to throw up. Well, at least 99% of all people, because the roll is so intense. You'll never experience anything like this in normal life. So, to give you just a taste of it, we've pre-selected some of the footage. Come close to your screens now, as close as possible, or bring your phones close to your eyes and watch like that without looking away for 10 seconds.
Wow.
Начинается с того, что у тебя немножко кружится голова, чуть-чуть.
It starts with your head spinning a little and a slight headache. Then you start noticing that when you're not looking at the horizon but just around, you get this weird feeling like everything is slowed down. Like you're dancing some dance very slowly. It's as if you're caught in a most weird, protracted slow-mo. And on top of these weird sensations, at some point, you start feeling a pulling sensation in your stomach, which gradually turns into something that feels a lot like nausea. That is what seasickness feels like. And you know what the worst part of it is? It's not about wanting to throw up. I mean, come on, who hasn't been in a situation where they needed to puke? You drank too much, you throw up, and feel better, right? But here, oh no, it's nothing like that. Here you feel this nausea all the time, building up, growing, and finally just settling in your stomach like it's come to stay. It nests there, tortures you, and it never leaves. That's what it's like.
Так это выглядит.
The Drake Passage has been the peril of many ships and boats that tried to cross its treacherous currents, fighting the winds since the age of discovery, until the opening of the Panama Canal, where almost all commercial routes in South America were happy to move. The reason the Drake Passage is so dangerous is that the currents at this latitude meet no obstacles. There's no landmass to break them up. On top of that, it's the deepest strait in the world. In its deepest parts, the ocean floor is believed to be almost 3 miles below the surface. Another reason is the winds. At the Drake Passage latitude, there's no land to break winds that travel around the globe, and so these winds can go unobstructed, consequently picking up speed and becoming extremely intense. And the Drake Passage is like a bottleneck on their way. The further you move from the equator, the more challenging it is to travel by sea. The first 30 degrees up and down the equator are relatively easy, but beyond that, the weather conditions change so drastically that sailors came up with names for certain zones centuries ago. First, there are the horse latitudes. It's a really peaceful zone. There are gentle winds and very little precipitation. Spanish captains favored these latitudes for tasks like transporting horses to Spanish colonies in the Caribbean and Americas, but their ships often got stuck midway due to still weather. Once they would run out of fresh water for the horses, they had to get rid of the poor dying animals by throwing them overboard. Next come the roaring 40s. Due to the Earth's rotation, the winds here become very strong, posing a serious threat to sailors. The 50s are called the Furious 50s because both cold and warm winds converge there. But in order to sail around South America, you've got to go even further down because Cape Horn gets in the way, and there you get to the zone called the shrieking 60s. That's where all the winds converge, meeting no obstacle like continents or any major islands. And that's exactly where we are now. A few hours later, the weather got much worse. Like a lot. The waves are already way higher than the level of our windows. The sky is overcast. It started raining and it's pretty heavy. We're getting closer. Not funny at all. I wasn't joking. The helm is too important. I got tossed right into the helm, and the entire control board is there next to it. All the important devices that ensure we can get to where we're going. A real storm can break out at any moment here. It only takes 3 to 5 minutes for the weather to change dramatically. What's happening now with the water splashing over me, it's not even a proper storm yet. It's not a storm at all, it's the normal kind of weather here. Wow, holy crap. Honestly, it feels like I'm on a roller coaster. Wow. And I feel like my camera won't even make it to Antarctica with waves like these. Let's get the hell out of here. It's getting dark and the wind is picking up. And the waves are getting even higher and the crew is like, great time to hoist the sails, yay! It's around 11 p.m, well, about 1:45. The boat keeps rolling like this.
под таким креном. Лодка, то есть она ты так.
And in addition to this, it sometimes gets tossed up on the waves, like into the air almost. And then it rolls even more, and it feels like it's just about to drop on its side.
Это
Honestly, it's... Especially when I hear the sound of the waves. Can you hear that?
слышите эти? Слышим.
I hear the waves beating against the walls. Well, how do I put it? It's one of my least favorite feelings.
Сказать, ощущение не самое приятное.
The sounds made is particularly scary. Things keep falling here and there, either in the galley or up in the deck. Meanwhile, you're sitting inside wondering, what if the wind breaks off an important piece of the mast or something else? The bathroom window gives you a better idea of how high the waves are getting. The bathroom is on the same floor as our cabin, so you can sit there looking out of this little window, and sometimes it feels like you're on a submarine about to go down.
Ты на подводной лодке иногда.
In each cabin, there's a survival suit that allows you to stay in frigid water for several hours. Remember the movie Titanic? DiCaprio's hero didn't get to one of those. To keep myself busy, I got mine out, read the instructions. And you know what? It turned out it was really good timing.
We've come really close to Antarctica, and the chances of coming across an iceberg are high in these waters.
Turns out, Antarctica is really close. As you can imagine, there are no beacons on icebergs, and our radar can only really detect the big ones. The only way to spot the smaller ones is by looking. So it's time for the boat crew to keep watch, and while they do, they can't even take a bathroom break.
If it's not big enough to be picked up by radar, we have our spotlight in our eyes to help us see everything that's going on right in front of us. The guys are looking out for icebergs. That means they just have to stand there and keep looking ahead. It's monotonous and very tiring, but it's very important. To help them see better, all other lights on the boat are turned off. Once we reach the continent, we'll be spending our nights moored in bays to minimize the risk of running into an iceberg. I really like icebergs, but only from a distance. An iceberg has drifted so close to the yacht, it almost bumped into it. It's blocked our way out.
We can't go anywhere. We need this iceberg out of our way. And you know how it's done? They push it away with a stick. Seriously, imagine, an iceberg can be the size of a 9-story building, but you can push it away with a stick. At least in theory.
Just a push is often enough to send it on its way elsewhere. But this dude here seems to be pretty stubborn.
It's dangerous? Oh really? It just blocked us, and we can't get out until we clear the way. The current kept bringing this iceberg back. Finally, First Mate Alex and Sailor Mikhail took a Zodiac boat in order to push the iceberg farther away. Just look at the size of the boat, the people on it, and this massive monster of an iceberg. We
finally leave the bay, and the beauty around us is insane. By the way, just in case you didn't know, Antarctica isn't all made of ice. There's bedrock underneath. It's not as massive, but it's important to know since it's a continent. Its area, together with the Antarctic ice sheet, is about 200 times larger than without it. About 80% of all fresh water on Earth is believed to be stored in Antarctica's continental glacier. Every winter, Antarctica's territory gets larger because of active ice formation, making the continent larger than Russia, for instance, with an area of 7,374,151 square miles. Every summer, about 2 million square miles of all that ice melts or breaks off, forming icebergs. Here they are, floating around, huge, majestic, and pretty dangerous. Each one is a lot larger than our boat. You can't even imagine how much larger because an iceberg is sort of like an ice cream cone in shape, with only a small part of it, roughly 10% of the entire mass, sticking out above the surface. The rest of it, which is a lot larger, remains underwater. Many of them are bigger than some of the world's tallest high-rise buildings. A collision with any of those would be fatal. Look at this incredible beauty! We've reached a bay full of icebergs that have been carried here by the current. The ocean is always calmer in the bays, so many icebergs end up drifting in. It's unbelievable. It's such a rare opportunity to see so close an iceberg like this, with this delicate arch. Look how thin it is. I just saw part of it collapse right in front of us. It's getting thinner, and that's why we won't try to go under. It's insanely beautiful. Just look at this amazing turquoise water. Wow! Actually, icebergs break off the Antarctic ice shelf all the time. The biggest known piece of the Antarctic ice shelf broke off in 2000. It was over 4,000 square miles. For comparison, that's larger than the island of Cyprus. And London, for instance, could fit on it 18 times. Okay, the storms didn't sink us, and we made it past the icebergs. It's time to take a breath. Time to eat something. Thank you, my dear. Thank you, Sergey. It's with butter and there's mayo. Just like at home, with butter, yes. Sergey is completely unfazed by icebergs or storms. See what's going on in the window behind his back? The waves are just crazy, and he's so zen about it, totally focused on making dumplings. I say it's more than food. It's dumpling therapy. I totally recommend it. Good Lord. Dumplings, I'm begging you, please always be a part of my life. Dumplings are divine, so delicious. Also, you know, when you eat dumplings, it always makes you feel so snug, so cozy. It takes you back to your grandma's house in the village, to your childhood, when you and your grandma made dumplings together for a holiday. That feeling, you know? Of being a kid, so fresh and carefree, no deadlines, no worries, all of that in just one bite. Such insane pleasure. The Antarctic waves are really special. I've never seen waves like this anywhere. They're huge, massive, they're these big, monstrous waves. It's very impressive. It keeps you aware all the time, you know? That you're here seeing all this only because the elements allow you to be here. To sit on this boat and talk to you. Friends. Only because nature said it's okay. For now.
Look, I saw some splash in the water, and then another one, and then 3 more. Then I saw a jet of water. And at that moment, I realized everything has been so worth it because it's been leading me to this amazing encounter with 5 whales. They swam in front of our boat as if showing us where to go. These incredible, huge creatures that seem like they're not even from our universe. One tail seems to be the size of our boat. Antarctic whales are completely harmless to humans. They feed mainly on swarms of krill. It's a type of zooplankton. Whales have a very interesting way of hunting for their food. Once they spot a krill mass, they construct a bubble net as they dive deep into the water, releasing bubbles of air in a circle or spiral. The krill do not know they're just bubbles. They think it's a net and they stay inside it. Once the net collects enough krill, a whale thrusts forwards from below with its mouth wide open and gulps a huge amount of water full of krill. An adult blue whale can eat up to 16 tons of krill per day. There was even a case where a human ended up in a whale's mouth. Seriously, it was a 56-year-old man named Michael Packard. He was lobster fishing when he felt something very big hit him and then found himself in complete darkness. Everything just went dark. And I could feel all this hard stuff around me. And I thought, I just got eaten by a whale shark. But then I said, no, I don't feel any teeth. Packard believes that he spent about 30 to 40 seconds in the whale's mouth before being spat out. After an emergency checkup, he was discharged from the hospital the same day. But the scariest thing in Antarctica is the cracking of the ice. Large, deep crevasses can open up right where you're standing, and the heavier you are, the greater the risk. How are things with neighbors from other stations? Everything's fine. In winter, we have all kinds of sports events for fun. We get together and play soccer, volleyball in a local tournament, so to say. This is perhaps the only place on Earth where the saying, "I'll go see my neighbors," refers to a different nation, rather than to other people in your building or on your block. Across the river from the Russian station is the Chilean one. A bit further down is Argentina, then Uruguay, then China, then Poland. Here, you can see the South Koreans leaving the Bellenshausen station with all the Russians helping them push their boat into the sea. The Chileans prefer to get cigarettes from the Russians because the local ones are too expensive. The guys at the Russian station trade with the Chileans for fresh vegetables, fruit, candy, and even foams. Farid, for example, recently got himself a Xiaomi. Here in Antarctica, there is no border control, so Russians can just walk over, say hi to the Uruguayan station, play pool with their friends, and they don't need money, visas, or custom checks. It's enough just to give a heads up on the radio. Here, people live outside of politics, putting human relationships first. For example, the Chileans invited us to their station, cooked their amazing barbecue, treated us to wine, beer, and everyone had a complete blast. And you know, when you're dancing in a circle with Chileans, Norwegians, Uruguayans, and others, you really wish the rest of the world were at least a little bit more like Antarctica.
Next time, I'll show you how we visited some more of the Antarctic stations, and I'll share the footage I honestly didn't plan to, from when my shoulder got dislocated and I nearly blacked out from the pain alone. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. This was Lyadov and How People Live.